Hello everyone and welcome once again to another program of Primetime. I'm your host Beverly. As we continue from last week, this is going to be our part 2 of our media chat with comments and insights from some of our expert media personalities and journalists. So stay tuned and we'll be right back for This is Primetime.
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like knowing you're covered when your house gets flooded, getting your settlements quickly and fairly when a fire hits your home, and making sure your business can keep going even after an accident happens on site. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
We're here at the outdoor sports meet. Oh, cut. These sandflies are murder. Wait, how come you aren't getting bitten?
Mommy uses Go Just for Kids to protect me from them and the evil mosquitoes that give you dengue.
There's also Go Family Protection for us adults. Can't be too careful with the dengue scares. Here.
Wow, this really works. Even the ants have stopped biting me. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Go, protect yourself.
Welcome back and thank you very much for Prime Time, and welcome to my guest. On my immediate right is my good friend Alita Singh, and she is the senior journalist at the Daily Herald. I know we've been friends for a long time, but actually it's her first time that I was able to convince her to come on the program, live on the program, but we do a lot of chatting on Facebook. And then next to her is our good friend Hilbert Hard, the editor-in-chief at the Today newspaper. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to really enjoy your take as to what's happening here on the island from the journalistic perspective. And so, Alita, now we have a new government in place. Supposedly it's going to stay for a long time. What can we expect?
Well, it's not so much new. It's the same government that we've had before. Of course, some of the players are different. And I think what the people should expect from their government and demand from their government is that things have to be different and things have to change. And one of the major things that we're facing at the moment is that there are several pieces of legislation that needs to be passed. Chief among that is the legislation to change the labor regulations, which for years people have been talking about and saying that it needs to be updated, changed. People need to be protected more from the abuse of the 6 months contract, etc. So I think the major thing for this government is not only social reform and doing things like the hospital and making sure that unemployment is lessened. Mm-hmm. It's also getting the legislative part going.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually what Parliament is in charge of.
Of course, I mean I think it's time that Parliament starts to do that job, the legislative part of what it is. The Parliament is the legislature, government is the executor. So if Parliament doesn't put the legislation in place, how is it going to go any further? However, Parliament does have a huge setback, and that setback is that they don't have jurists, they don't have people to write the laws, and not every lawyer can write the law. So without that, Parliament is not going to go very much further, or it would mean that one MP or a faction would have to then go out, find a jurist to write their law, and that holds up the whole legislative process. So if there's something that needs to be fixed, it has to be that.
What about you, Hilbert? Your take on the old new government that we have right now in place?
Well, personally, I think that the good news is that there is a government that was here the previous 10, 11 months as well. So they've been making plans, they've been setting things in motion, and they can now continue with what they started rather than what we've seen in the past 6 years. Government takes office, they start making plans. By the time they want to execute, government falls. New government does the same thing, and that's why for the past 6 years nothing has happened. So
how is it looking for this coalition?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about that in terms of how much stability did we get with this election, and I'm not really. I mean, nobody can be sure about that. Is history going to repeat itself? God forbid. I think that stability is one of the things that is essential for the whole community, actually. Now, it's not about the politicians, it's about the people who live here. And they will benefit from a government that is able to execute its plans rather than making them and then find out that somebody else actually wants something totally different.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, but from a journalistic point of view, how has reporting changed? Because we have a lot of competition with social media. How has that changed? Are people still interested in hardcore news?
Well, I think that the role of the print newspaper certainly has to change, because everything that happens, I mean, if this building blows up in the next 5 minutes, it will be all over Facebook.
Yeah.
And our newspaper for tomorrow is already done, so you will read about it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So what the newspaper needs to do is to give meaning to the news. To go into the background. Why are things happening? Not that they are happening, but why is it happening? What are people doing? Explain those things. Go deeper than you go with writing a story about accidents that happen, incidents that happen, and so on. Now, there's one problem with that, of course. And unfortunately, I think I don't know the exact number, but there are probably 500 more spin doctors than journalists in the world.
The bloggers?
No, the spin doctors on the side of the government, the people who spin the news, who tell you what they would like you to print, rather than look in the direction where you should look as a journalist and find out what is really going on. And that costs time. And in the meantime, you have to make your newspaper every day. So the time to do real research is unfortunately limited. And you're very much depending on sources that are ready to help you out, because without sources, journalism is going to die.
Alisa, what about you? How challenging have you found it in the years moving on?
Well, I think in the beginning, when social media really took off on St. Martin, it became a challenge for journalists, because people still don't understand the role of the journalist. And that is partly our fault, and it's also partly not our fault. We don't have the time to go out and teach people what they're supposed to, what we're supposed to do. Social media allows you to go and social media or blogging, because it's two different platforms. You can go out, you can damage someone's reputation on social media or in a blog, but you can't do that in print, because there's legislation and there are principles of journalism you have to follow. Now, we live in a society, we live in a country where the laws have not caught up with the technology as yet. So how has it made my job different? People think that everything that happens is news, but news is the extraordinary. That's why it's called news. It's the extraordinary. And it also means our job as journalists, as real journalists, is to give both sides of the story and allow the person reading to make up their mind which direction they want to go in. Social media gives an opinion. Blogging gives an opinion from a personal point of view. Do we have to keep up with the times? We have to. But in keeping up with the times, we also have to educate the population as to what we do, how we do it, and what role we play. The media is the fourth estate. We're the watchdog between government, between civil society, and the people. And as more time goes by, if we, as the members of the press, the serious or the traditional or the real press, don't start to speak out and don't start to talk about the things that affect the society and how society is being affected, for instance, by things that are happening on social media, we're only going to see our society fall, crumble a bit further. A rumor can put down a government.
You see that.
We've seen it. A rumor can shake things up, can make people nervous. So we have a role to play as well, but that's tough. As Hilbert says, it's tough. We have a certain amount of time, certain amount of resources to be able to produce a newspaper every day. And so in order to tackle other things, sometimes there's not enough hours in the day to do it.
I hear you. Anyway, we need to take a break, and when we come back, I want your take on the economy, the situation on the island, things that need to be addressed, like yesterday, ASAP on the island. Stay tuned, and we'll be back in a moment. This is Primetime Media Part 2.
People all across St. Martin are switching to a more rewarding experience. The WIB MasterCard Fun Miles credit card, better known as My Card. Earn 1 Fun Mile for every $2 spent, even abroad and online. This will quickly get you a ton of Fun Miles to redeem for travel, shopping, food, fuel, and much more. But there's more to My Card. Worldwide acceptance, an EMV chip for extra security, and 250 free Fun Miles with first use. Switch to My Card today at WIB.
within your reach.
Travel Planners, an award-winning agency on St. Martin with a well-trained, knowledgeable and friendly staff dedicated to making your travel arrangements hassle-free. We can book your airline, car, cruise and hotel reservations to anywhere in the world. Visit our offices or log on to our website and take advantage of our special packages to the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Travel Planners, voted Best Travel Agency on St. Martin.
A cruise is a great adventure, not only for passengers, also for us. The Port of St. Martin. Our port always reflected the needs and aspirations of the time. From the first to the 1.75 millionth passenger in 2013. Our cruise story started in 1963 with our first cruise passenger. 50 great years later, 20 million passengers later, thousands of cruise berths later, we've become the leading port in the Caribbean. 50 fantastic years. Like a dream. The dream of Port St. Martin lives on and reinvents itself every day. The best is yet to come.
Welcome back and thank you very much for joining us. This is Prime Time. And before we move any further, first, on behalf of all of us here at Prime Time, we'd like to wish Prime distributors congratulations on their 40th year of business here on the island, and we wish them continued success in the future. And so that's my boy Danny and friends over there at Prime. Now, before we took a break, we want to say it feels busy. But what's your opinion and how you think, Hilbert, the island is going economy-wise?
Well, economy-wise, we're not doing that well, of course, because we've seen a strong decline in cruise arrivals. 300,000 last year compared to 2015, time $191 a head. That's a lot of money that is not coming into the economy. And I'm sure that Mark Mingo at the port, he's doing his utmost to bring new business here, but to make up for those 300,000, that's quite a challenge. You know, they're gone. Those you see those cruise companies, they invest heavily in other destinations in the Caribbean. Cuba's opening up. People want to go there now. I spoke to a couple of people early this weekend about Cuba. They said, people have been there, they've seen it. They say, no infrastructure, no, it's not all that good, but it's intriguing. And this is why all those people who go there once, that one time they go there, they're not going to go anywhere else, and not to St. Martin either.
Right.
So you see a decline there.
And we see our neighbors like St. Kitts, they're building a new pier, and their numbers are rising. This week or last week, they had about 5 or 6 ships in port at the same time. Should we be concerned and worried about that?
Of course we have to be concerned. We cannot sit here and say, oh, Cuba, it's nothing to do with us, what they do in Totola, well, whatever. And I think we need a proactive approach. That's not only what the port is, but also the marketing of the destination itself. And as we all know, that is not going good at the moment. That's not going good at all.
I think they want to elaborate on that point?
Definitely the economy is not doing well, and we have to remember that St. Martin is a mature product. We're almost 50 years in the tourism business. What new have we offered to cruisers coming here other than sun, sand, and sea? What intrigues them to come here? What is the new part that we have to offer? Without anything new other than traffic and the infrastructure deteriorating, we're not going to attract them. We're not going to attract back cruise passengers. If you consider how much time it takes for you to get from Point Blanche, where the pier is, to Phillipsburg on a heavy ship day, you're already you're biting significantly into that person's time on land. That doesn't increase the experience. Right now, many of us are still paying our road tax or have paid it already. And the last press conference we had with the finance minister, he said, well, one thing I can tell you about the road tax is that we have more cars on the road. Now, more cars equal more traffic without more,
Without more
roads
roads.
opening up. So that affects our product. Our product needs to be renewed, and like Hilbert said, we need to do marketing. We have not had any cohesive marketing for several years now, over a decade. We owe our marketing firms. Government has serious financial serious financial constraints, and those are things that need to be fixed. We have ridden the wave of name recognition, St. Martin, dual French-Dutch island for all these years, but in the meanwhile, there are other destinations that are now picking up and saying, look, we have something new, we have something fresh, and Cuba indeed is something that we should look at. And yes, Cuba's infrastructure is not up to par at the moment, but it's the intrigue of Cuba. It's
going to bring people.
It's the
Yeah, at the same time, we also have a strong positive element in our economy. There's the timeshare industry. With all the negative stories that have been there, Pelican Key, which is now Simpson Bay Resort, has renovated, is suddenly upmarket again. And the people, those timeshare owners who do come here, they've been coming here for 20, 30 years.
Right.
They wouldn't dream of going anywhere else. You know, and that is also a part of the visitors that are spending a lot of money here.
Yeah, we've 80% of our economy is from timeshare. And we have to consider that while that's 80%, and it is true that it will not consider somewhere else, that timeshare demographic is also aging. What are we doing? What are we doing for that aging population? Then we have to take into consideration that Airbnb is taking a foothold in the Caribbean. We have at the moment about 150 listings on Airbnb. Now, we've always had, I think we pioneered Airbnb because, for instance, you know, people who own villas, they don't use it year round, they put it up, they rent it. Now, with the whole Airbnb issue, it becomes even more. I mean, Jamaica, the government of Jamaica is actually speaking to Airbnb and say, you know what, if you're going to come into our market, we want to talk to you because we don't want the Jamaican brand to go bad.
Right.
So we have to consider that because we also lose taxes with that. Somebody using Airbnb would not be paying room tax.
Yep. Internationally, there's a major swing to the right with first Brexit, and then a win for Trump, and he's going to be, he would have been inaugurated by the time this program is aired. What does it mean for us here in St. Martin? The sound of that new kind of U.S. president.
I don't know. I heard from a finance minister made a statement about that, saying that he expects on the business level actually good news from that presidency. I don't know. I'm not going to say something about something that I don't know enough about. I think it's probably good news for bricklayers who live near the Mexican border. But apart from that, you know, but you see that what is even more important is that swing to the right. You see it also in Europe and also in the Netherlands, where we're going to have elections in March, where Geert Wilders is probably going to be the winner if the polls are correct for a change. But he will not get into government because there's a whole string of parties who have already said we're not going to do business with him. So in that sense, but it is a sign of the times that this whole dissatisfaction with the political establishment. That's basically what it is. And the political establishment is sitting there looking at it and say, and what are we going to do about it? I mean, it's not a new story, and they are unable to bridge that gap to the voters, to appeal to them, to say, hey, we're here for you. Because most of them are there for themselves.
That's the sad we see it every. We'll take hold your point, and we'll take a break, and then we come back. This is Prime Time. Stay tuned, and we'll be back in a moment. Continue to view us on YouTube and Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back in a moment.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
The Daily Herald is my first source for up-to-date information and news. Putting together this program of prime time requires research and knowledge of current events. For local news, regional and international news, do read the Daily Herald. Yes, we cut you off just to go to our break, but pick up the point, Anita.
I think the issue with what you're talking about is there's a big leaning to the right. It comes from the fact that over decades, politicians and people in power have pushed this whole idea of differences, the whole them and us. Brexit had a lot to do with them and us. The people who voted for Brexit were the older people in the United Kingdom that saw the influx of immigrants as something bad. They saw the connection with Europe as the reason for the influx of immigrants, without thinking that they had, migrants as well. So the same is happening all over Europe, where the fear is, I am going to disappear. So in order for me not to disappear, I want to push, and I want me to be upfront. Same thing happened in the U.S. Trump appealed to the whole American, especially the Midwest, especially Middle America. You are no longer going to be the face of, because we have these immigrants coming in. And we're not taking into consideration that the world is now a global village. When you hear a name, it may sound Arabic, but may not be an Arabic person walking through the door. But this all comes from the fact that we have fed and we have been brought up on this whole idea of differences are bad.
That's true. And we're moving on. We saw some high-profile arrests in 2016. Are we finally getting serious on crime, white-collar crime, or whatever else kind of crimes we have going on?
I mean, we have talked about it for so long that there's the underbelly of the underworld on St. Martin. Of course, we've had several integrity reports that have said completely different, that there's no mixing of. Of course, there are high-profile arrests. High-profile arrests will definitely make news. Are we getting tough on crime? It all depends. It depends on what the prosecutor's office has decided that needs to be tackled, where the evidence is. Are there crimes that still need to be tackled that are not white-collar crimes or regular crimes against everyday people? Yeah, we need to tackle those. We need to ensure that people are safe on the street. We have to ensure that people, jewelers on Front Street, or businesses on Front Street or anywhere else, that someone doesn't run into their store and break a glass. Where does that come? How do we tackle that kind of crime? There's prevention, which starts with education. So are we getting tough on crime? We're going to start getting even tougher on crime when we start to really focus on educating our young people, that they are able to be more fruitful members of the society.
Hilbert.
Yeah, well, we have of course that anti-corruption task force that is financed by the Netherlands for a period of 2 years, for 22 million euros or so, something like that.
This is the second year.
And I think that if those 2 years have gone by, then what? You know, my idea is already you have to continue doing that, because this is simply additional manpower that is doing stuff that our understaffed police force will never get around to. They simply don't have the capacity for that. So in itself, you know, on the one hand you see, high-profile arrest. You know, the most high-profile arrest was, of course, nothing to do with investigations here, but investigation in Italy, of which we still need to see what is going to come out of that. You know, nobody knows that, but everybody thinks, right, this man is guilty, which is quite presumptuous, I find. But at the same time, you see things are happening. They tackled human trafficking. I think that is a pretty important issue to deal with. The hypnotic brothel is now closed for good. I just got that from the trustee of that bankruptcy. That's going to be closed. That building is going to be auctioned. What's going to happen there afterwards, we don't know. But there are quite some of these establishments under investigation. And then you have to realize they are under investigation, and you have to see what will come of that investigation before you going to say what is what.
We saw, what are some of the issues on the horizon? We have to move along quickly that we need to pay attention to.
Well, Alita mentioned already the labor legislation that is that is at Parliament at the moment, and I understood from Sarah Westcott that it is one of the first pieces of legislation that they will they will handle. So that'll be good. That's one step in a complex process. Another thing on the horizon, I think, is the national health insurance that that is coming up, and labor market reform, because our labor market is still very, very rigid, and that is not good for the economy. That is not good for the private sector. And I've always said, you should not exploit people. Every company wants to have people that are happy to work there, that flourish within their functions. But if your labor market is so rigid and the laws are so strict that you're hardly there to hire anybody, then everything comes to a stop. So the government, the politicians will have to look at that.
Alita, your take.
I think one of your first questions had to do with the economy and the state of the economy. I think one of the things that we have to look at immediately is marketing the island, branding our island, to ensure that that we attract people here. I think it's time that when we hit a subway or we get into an airplane, that we see advertising for St. Martin. We have to. That's major, because that's where we make our money. And I think somewhere along the line, we somehow forgot that tourism is, at the moment, our main source of income. It's what feeds us.
Anyway, this has been the end of this program. It went really, really quickly, but we've touched on some really important and pertinent topics, and let's see what's going to happen for the year 2017. We hope we'll have a continued stable government, and we will see some things that we talked about today come into in completions. Thank you very much for joining me, Alita and Hilbert. Appreciate you taking your time out. This has been Prime Time. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week, and may God bless you.